Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special, a little bit different holiday version of Renter Obsessed. This format, typically we bring a topic to the table and have an open conversation about it. This week, we still have extra guests that can chime in at any time, but I brought in a very special guest that I've known for a lot of years who's doing really incredible work. And I invite everyone on this call right now or listening in podcast land to take a moment and, take all this in and take a step back and think about what you have and what you're grateful for and what you can do to help others. So I am bringing in Tyrone Poole. Tyrone has a company called OneApp Guarantee. He went back when I was a marketing director at a property management company. I actually love saying this. My company was the very first one to use OneApp Guarantee. So I've been a huge fan for a long time. Earlier this year, we Knock and OneApp worked together to create a new program that we will tell you about today. And we hope that anyone and everyone in the multifamily industry on this call and beyond feels inspired to get involved. So without further ado, welcome to the podcast and live discussion, Tyrone.
Yes, I remember you saying that you guys were the first to use OneApp, and you were. I remember coming into your office and pitching you on the concept, and you being the very first company to sign up in Oregon and overall in general. OneApp Guarantee is our new product that you talked about, but OneApp, we did start off being a matching software. We created the first website ever, a mobile app that will pull a renter's background check and screen them against every vacancy in the state simultaneously. The goal was to be able to match some people who had some high barriers to properties they qualified for. And you guys being the first to give me your criteria and get on the platform, you guys followed by almost every company in Oregon. During our heyday, we had 309 of the 389 companies in Oregon on board. And we did a really good job at matching people to housing they qualify for. Yep.
And then something you realized that you told me about that changed everything for you.
Yes. So because of my own background, I know you already know, but I was homeless. I got injured in the fire academy, ended up being hospitalized for 9 months. And then I lived in a shelter for a couple months after that. And I was given an award letter that paid rent anywhere I wanted to live in Oregon for a year. And I was still in the shelter for 3 months with that letter that paid rent anywhere I wanted to live. Because it was really hard to get approved with all the barriers I had, the recent eviction, the debt to the previous landlord, all because of my injury. And so I was positive that building a tool that showed everybody where they qualified to live was the solution, like positive. And after putting it to market and launching it, we had a lot of success, but we got a lot of we started to get more and more negativity. And it was because of the fact that a lot of people did not like the options that they were given on the platform. Even though we showed you everywhere you qualify. I mean, the platform out of 4,000 vacancy, you qualify for 106 or 35 or whatever it was, here they are. And we thought that we were doing people like a solid for showing them where these were. And in reality, the app got a lot. We got feedback like, you should use OneApp if you want to live out in the middle of nowhere, or you should use OneApp if it came down to two reasons why people didn't want to use and gave a negative response to the app. One, people really like they knew what they wanted in a property. So they didn't care about all the properties that we showed them if they didn't like them. I mean, we would say you qualify for 10 in Portland, and they would swipe through those 10 and be like, I don't like any of those. And I'd be like, okay, we got to pick one. And they're like, well, I don't want to pick one. and that was it. And they would apply to properties they didn't qualify for. The other thing was community. It was a big deal. Like the app might say you qualify for 120 properties, but if I wanted to live in Portland, who cares about the 30 that were in Vancouver, or the 15 that were in Beaverton, or the 25 that were in Aloha? No one cares. It's like they didn't even exist. That big 100 and something number we put in front of them had no value because they wanted to live in their community. That's where their job was. That's where their kids' schools were. That's where their church was. That's where their friends and family lived. And it was more than just a want. A lot of people, community is more than just, you know, where you want to live. A lot of people, they were dependent on their community. Like they needed to live next to their mom because that's where she got their kids off the school bus every day when they were still at work. They needed to share a car. They needed these things, and community make up a lot of people's income, you know? And so the fact is OneApp got a rep for gentrifying communities. You know, we were told that OneApp was the reason that people are forced to live out in the middle of nowhere. It was like, we're not creating what you see. We're just helping you visualize what's really happening. But at the end of the day, we got a bad rap for that. And so we decided to solve for it. And one piece of data that came out of OneApp was revolutionary for us. And it was 71% of all of the denials that took place in 2019 would have been approved if they had a cosigner. It is like the most powerful silver bullet to access, but less than 2% of people apply with a cosigner. So you have something that will overcome virtually any barrier except for criminal. Your income not quite 2 times the rate, cosigner. Credit not quite there, cosigner. You know, whatever the barrier, rental history not there, cosigner. And no one has access to it. So we decided to create a cosigner. And that's what you were talking about, the OneApp Guarantee. It's a corporate cosigner, I guess, since it's not your uncle. So that's what we built.
You talked about how you got a rep for gentrifying neighborhoods. And I think that says a lot about the demographic of people that are forced to use services like that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that kind of mix?
Yeah. So a lot of so right now the BIPOC community is the huge overwhelming user of needs of supports and market-driven solutions for access to housing. Like it just falls down to, I mean, even though Oregon is, in other states, but especially Oregon is, I think it's like 87% or something Caucasian American, yet the majority of people, and I mean, I have this exact statistics here, but I can pull those up for you, but the majority of people are people of color. And it's because of the fact that the way that property management companies measure risk is just inherently racist. And it's not intentional. It's not like the landlords or the property management companies are racist. It's just that their way of managing risk and the tools that they use to measure risk are racist. And I will give you an example, because I know a lot of people hear that and they get frustrated by it, but it's the reality, especially in Oregon. So in Oregon, credit is one of the number one determinants of being denied, right? People think it's income, it's not income. Credit is the huge reason for denials. And credit is a terrible indicator of risk amongst the Black community, especially. The first time people try to get credit or try to pay attention to credit is when they want to buy a house. That's really the first time that you really dig into your credit. In Oregon, Blacks weren't allowed to own real estate until 1953. My grandma was born in 39. My mom was born in 63. So when you deny people for not having good credit, it doesn't work for people who never had access to credit, who never understood credit, who never learned credit. Credit is not, it doesn't mean that we have bad credit because we make poor decisions. We just don't really understand how credit works. It's not a part of our community. It's never been a part of our community. We own 2.2% of real estate in Oregon. Like, we don't understand credit. And so for that to be the biggest reason for denials, it should not be a factor because it doesn't determine our risk. So it's so I'll give you the, so like in Oregon, 75% of the people who use OneApp are people of color. 62% are female, 50% of them have children, and 96% of them are employed. So that shows you the demographic of, and if you looked at our default rate, like the people who actually end up needing or failing when they get into housing, the number's 4%. 4% of the people we put into housing get evicted. It's lower than the national average. So it shows you that you didn't do a good job measuring risk, right? And that's over 3,000 applications. So
So for the people that are new to OneApp, the concept of it, can you explain what it's like for the renter and what it's like for the property management company to be using OneApp?
Yeah, absolutely. So we went out and we pitched a lot of management companies like yours, your old one, and we said, hey, if you deny somebody, would you allow us to co-sign? We see on your screening criteria, because we had all the company screening criteria in our app. So we knew who took co-signers. And we went out and we said, would you allow us to be an eligible co-signer? And if they say yes, then we would say, and we showed them the data. We said 97% of move outs, based on Oregon's move out data and our multifamily, would have been made whole if they had 3 times the rent. That's the best insurance coverage you can get, right? So if we're on the hook for 3 times the rent, would you allow us to be a co-signer? And then they said yes. And then we said, okay, send us all your denied traffic. If you deny somebody, send them to us and give us the opportunity to co-sign for them. If they say yes, then, allow us to co-sign. We also, on our OneApp website, when you find houses on OneApp.com or .rentals, when you would pull your background check, see everywhere you qualify, but then we allowed for you to see where you qualify with the cosigner. And so you could add our product to it, and then all those green pins that you didn't qualify to or red pins on the app would light up green. So that was the 2 ways that we allow renters to get flow, through.
That's really smart. I want to say, like, that's what drew me into this was because I run a lead management tool, that understanding that people are not interested in what they can qualify for. They want what they want. And
Exactly.
I see that. So that's why I was like, oh, I got to hear about this because
Yep.
yeah.
That's exactly
So,
right.
but that's a brilliant way to do it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. People, we learned that was I spent $4 million of investors' capital in 3 years building a website that at the end of the day, I learned that I'm not able to influence human behavior. People don't apply to where they qualify. They apply to where they want to live,
Right.
Period. So the only words that crushed the whole company's dream was, I don't want to live there. And that was it. Like all the years of work ended when they said, oh, these are the 30 I have to choose from. I don't like any of these. And,
So
and then
we call
continued
that
to apply
failing
to that.
forward. We call that failing forward at work. Yeah. You failed
That's
forward.
a $4 million learning experience. I think a
Exactly.
lot of
That's
startups
okay.
have had those.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
So for as a renter,
Mhm.
in a reason why Tyrone and I have been working together a lot, and Knock and OneApp have been working together a lot this year is you can't just use OneApp as a co-signer. Obviously, they need to have a way to be able to fund co-signing for all these people. And
Yes.
so as a renter, if I find an apartment I love and it's $1,500 and I want a co-signer and I don't have one, I can go to OneApp and OneApp Guarantee, and I can pay them
Mhm.
$1,500 equal to 1 month of my rent as basically the charge to use the service.
Yes.
So there is actual money in the bank if the 4% of the people do default.
Yep. That's exactly right. So we put 4%.
Well, I personally am very familiar with how all this works because we have some hybrid product around it. There is hybrid product around it.
Great.
So.
Yep. So we launched ours in Oregon. We put a lot of first we were terrified. My investors were terrified. I was like, you're gonna co-sign for, and our criteria was steeper than, like, we didn't say, oh well, we'll go a little bit below or a little. We put our criteria to the floor. Like the people who we allowed to be in housing, we were taking people that were staying in hotel rooms and being paid by the city. People from housing shelters, people that were couch hopping. I mean, it was like we took some of the most challenging, the ones that people thought were like a bad play, period. And we didn't just put them in a place that we allowed them to live where they wanted to live, like where they fell in love with. If they could make 2 times the rent, you can have that place. And we went all the way. So we didn't take like a baby step. We went as far as you could go with this product. And we have the numbers show right now we get about, like Sydney said, we get about the average rent in Oregon is about $1,500. The average rent statewide is around $1,200, or nationwide, because we're in 17, 18, some amount of states now in the last 2 years, is $1,200. We get 1,000, just over 1,000 applications per month that we approve. We get a lot of applications, but 1,000 that finish the application full on, get an approval, and about 200 that move forward every month. So it's about 20% can participate. It's hard for us because we're not in a position, being a small company, we love taking the risk. We feel comfortable with it, but there's no way that we can financially afford to take the risk without having enough capital to back all of the guarantees. So we have to charge a full month's rent because that's what makes the product pencil for us. And so we struggled because we were like, we are turning away 80% of our applicants can't move forward when they complete the process. And that's when we got approached by Knock, and Sydney came like a godsend, and we worked together on a new concept. And it is awesome. We are going to launch in 2022 of February, a payment plan. And the payment plan is going to be powered by currently just Knock, but hopefully even more and more people get involved at the end of the day. And the way it'll work is we will be able to basically allow people to break it down into 6 and 11 month payments. So you can actually, instead of having to have that, $1,000 up front, you can move in today with $80 or whatever that is broken down by 12. I should have probably did the math on that first. So that's so amazing. I think 80%, we did a survey and we reached a couple hundred people who had not moved forward in a single month. And we just said, you got approved to the place you wanted. Why didn't you move forward? And 20% said they either found a new place or the property was no longer available, which some of our management companies send people to OneApp, but then lease the property, which is just a learning curve. We got to teach them, like, you got to hold it for them to finish the process. The other problem was they just moved on to a new property. So 80% though said it was flat out because they didn't have the money. I couldn't afford first month's rent plus my deposit plus an additional full month's deposit to OneApp, like 80%. So 2022, we're going to have a huge impact on the people we were out here to support because of a new partnership. So very excited.
So the reason why I asked Tyrone to be here in such a public setting, Knock has been internally raising funds with our employees. The company has donated. We've raised $26,000 so far, which I'm very, very proud of. It makes me so, so proud to be part of a culture that wants to do that. But Tyrone came to me a couple of weeks ago and he's like, we overturned 2,500 applications in 2021. I want to do 10,000 in 2022. And I was like, all right, Tyrone, how much money do we need to raise to do that? And so this year, or this new year in a couple of days, and this is kind of a little preview to it, we have the donations all go to United Way. Tyrone has a great relationship with them, so they're helping us collect the funds. And so in 2022, this link is live and available for literally anyone in the planet to go and donate to. If we can raise $200,000 then Tyrone, OneApp is confident that you can get 10,000 people into that payment plan program, correct?
Exactly. We can overturn 10,000 denials in 2022. 10,000 people who got denied.
Wow.
Yes, with $200,000.
So I have a question for you. I'm super interested in all of this. So I'm in Atlanta.
We have a huge base in Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay. So two things. One, I'm very familiar with what you're talking about, credit versus income. Because we have a lot of high-end properties where people can afford it, but they, as you've said, they didn't really have a strong understanding of credit. So they have a good job, But the other thing is there's a huge Hispanic community. They have a lot of money, but credit's a mystery
Mhm.
too. So then my third thing, I have three things I'm thinking about here, is through COVID, we working. I don't work on site, but I know our on-site teams have become, like we said, we're professional social workers. We know every avenue for additional funds, potentially as backup for what you're doing too. So I think it's it's a beautiful program what you're doing. I mean, you're just administrating with many, many avenues, really, as I can see it. The opportunity for so many people to get housing. I mean, it's such a need, especially with what rent is now. It's crazy.
It is. It is.
Crazy.
And a lot of people attribute a lot of the denials to things that are like in Oregon, I was speaking about it and they were like, we need to talk about the real problem. The real reason that Portland became the whitest city is because rents are too high. And then I was like, okay, on the outskirts, in the middle of nowhere, we call it, the rent is about $180 difference. So it ain't cheap to live in Troutdale versus Portland. Portland is more expensive, but on average is not a huge difference. But what is different is that they need more renters out there. So the criteria is different. You
Right.
don't say you need, they will let you in with 2 times the rent out there, 2.5 times the rent. It is the multiplier required by the landlord's measurement of risk. Needing 3 times the rent means that I can't live in a place that is $2,000 a month when I make $4,500. But with OneApp Guarantee, you can. So it's, even though we don't make the rents cheaper, we still make the access there, you know. So it's not about, it's pure measurement of risk. And a lot of big management companies, so another thing is that mom and pops, like the small management companies, you know how in the individual private owners, we're getting involved with them for the first time in 2022, and they are the most biased, and they have this, they have the smallest amount of data, and they create the biggest biases. You know, I have one renter who is 19 years old. They destroyed it. I don't rent to any more people that don't have rental history, like ever. And I'm like, wow, that one sample size was enough for you to create an entire bias on a group. But that's how it works in that space. So, you know, it's going to be hard for us to penetrate in that space too. But yeah, we have some.
I would say that the apartment industry is just now really understanding the value of data. So many decisions are made based on this is how it was. And I'm 60 years old, so Sydney knows me. So I'm always like, yeah, no, that's not relevant. Like, you know, so yeah, I'm so into what you're doing. I think it's a really beautiful thing that you're doing. And I really believe you're totally dead on. I was just in Vegas and we took over some properties there, and I'm looking at, like the rent increases, and they're like $400 a month is how much rents have gone up. This is a very working class property, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, how are these people feeding their families? So then I started investigating at all the support programs out there. I just think it's a great layer of help that's very necessary, because there's also ways for people to get additional funds, but they're not going to guarantee the lease. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's so great. It's such a great thing that you're doing.
The thing we like the most is that we didn't change the landlord's
right
way of doing business.
Right.
They already accepted cosigners. We didn't say you got to do some new crazy thing that you never heard of in order to get renters. It's like, yeah, we take cosigners. What does it take for us to fit into the cosigner, risk model that you already have, right? And that is so we like the most about it.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions or objections you get from the property management industry when you approach them?
So in Georgia, it was a much easier market to enter. Oregon, we were in Oregon, and I personally OneApp had a reputation, so it was a little bit easier. But in other markets that have never even heard of a concept of a guarantee, like we go to Washington, we go to, Boise, Idaho, places like that. It's like, first of all, it's just a shock factor. Like, it's like, so you're going to, in their minds, they truly believe that the people they deny are denied that if they were to get in, they will create losses. You know, like they've created like an actual, like all these people that you're going to have me approve, they're going to fail. And they truly believe that. They truly believe that they are really locking out people who, the bad ones. They believe they're keeping out the bad ones with their criteria. And from my perspective, because I have the only app that exists that has everybody's screening criteria, I can look at this property and say, oh, you denied people because they have more than 5 accounts in collections. The property across the street doesn't care about how many accounts you have in collections. You can't have more than $1,000 in collections. Across the street from that, they don't care about either of those. You can't have a credit score less than 600. The next one is, but I don't qualify here, but I qualify here. I don't qualify here, but I qualify here. And they're all bouncing around, but they all feel like they're keeping out the bad ones, you know? And it's just so that's the first misconception, is that they all believe like that they really are, that their criteria is sound. And that, so if you truly believe that, then even if they're guaranteed, you feel like you're still going to be processing a lot of evictions, a lot of bad turnover, right? Even though you're not losing money, it's just going to be a hassle for the company to take in, you know, all of these underqualified people. That's the first objective that we have to get over. So we show our data, we show, like, believe it or not, like, you should be renting to them anyway, but I believe that you won't do it. So let me take the risk. So that's our first and probably the largest misconception that we get, is that it's going to destroy their company.
Are you familiar with Sure Deposit?
Yes. Those are the surety bonds, right?
Right. So when they first came out, same deal. Oh no. If you're not getting at least a month's rent, no. You cannot let someone move in for $87.50. Guess what? I'm just saying, they've got some data that would serve you.
Yes.
Because it was the very same. No. But also, we've gone to, like, totally, I'm just giving you some ammunition. We've gone to only online payments. Oh, no. My residents will not do that. They can't do that. They don't know, and of course they do. And so, but Sure Deposit is very much aligned philosophy wise. Just so you know, if you don't know them, you should get to know them. Because
surety bonds were like the MVP of the space. Like they don't overturn denials.
No.
They only work for approved renters. So people who are approved have and there's a lot of products out there that work with approved renters because that data is easy,
Right. They don't serve you, but they don't serve the market you serve. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the getting into the market, same thing.
Yep, exactly. They had to overcome the fear of that. So Sydney, to answer your question, that's the first one and probably the biggest one. Once they can understand that the people we are letting in aren't going to basically change the culture of their company, they're not bad people. From there on, it's very little resistance. Like it's just the ignorance around just hearing that somebody's been staying in a hotel for 6 weeks and we're going to co-sign for them automatically gives them this idea of who these people are. And it's just a poor, misunderstanding. And
it's a huge assumption. I'm sorry to jump in.
Yes.
This was really eye-opening because I know there's a lot of talk about the, just making it a level playing field in the ways that we can and giving someone a stable place to live. I don't think that hurts anybody's chances. And that's what's so, that's so nauseating to hear something like that. And I know that you're doing something really great here because it's just based on an assumption. And it's like you said, it's the biases that they create, but I'm really hopeful that what you're doing is going to just empower so many more people to get into the space and kind of dispel that whole thing, because working off of assumptions doesn't help anybody, especially if you have the data to back it up. So this is just, I'm floored with that.
And just like Susan said, a lot of the assumptions are historic assumptions. People need to make the assumptions themselves. They're going off of assumptions. I ask people, why is 600? Why is 600 as a credit score? There's no answer for it. Like, there's no answer for why it
That's
was
the way we've always done
exactly.
it.
That's exactly
That's
what
the
it is.
answer in property
It's-
management.
Yeah.
What
If
So
I
let
could-
me ask you another question, Tyrone. Are you relying on the leasing people and the people in the office to promote your product?
So we originally in 2021, that was the biggest. So we have the software, the OneApp software in Oregon, right? Which mapping, so people were able to see it from that. But then outside of there, it is very heavily reliant on the leasing agent. And this year, we are doing almost all integrations. We are like, now that the product is matured, the volume is there. We have 7 figures inside of our bank. We know what our risk is. We've done it for 2 years now. We are doing some integrations, and those integrations will help it become. We've already done a couple integrations, and it's become a big part of the business. So it'll automate the process. So that way, leasing agents, because turnover and property sales and all that has been an impact. And so now it's like, we no longer will have, that is the big deal. The screening company simultaneously sends every report saying denied but approved with OneApp Guarantee. And so that's like literally the result that comes back. So we have plugged into a couple screening companies, and we have a huge amount more on our to-do list to plug into, to where it's an automated part of the process now.
Right.
If you're a screening company and you're listening to this podcast, please reach out to Tyrone
Yes,
if you haven't
exactly.
already.
Yes, we have an open API. It costs you literally nothing to plug in, and it will send it out to all your people.
Yes, it costs everyone literally nothing. It costs the property management companies nothing. It costs the screening companies nothing. What it does do is help you fill your vacancies faster. How much workload do we have processing application after application, and only the percentage of them are approved, and you start all over again, put the unit back on the market. This result.
I'm going to give you a reverse. This is something that also interests me. When I came through in this industry many years ago, if you couldn't help someone find an apartment, if you couldn't rent to them because they weren't qualified, you had to find them another apartment. And it's always stuck with me that we don't do that anymore. So I manage a lead management tool, right? And because of digital marketing and the way that I guess it's called programmatic, I'm still learning. So we get tons and tons and tons of non-qualified leads, tons. And I'm like, this is a logical thing. I'm going to talk to Noah about it. Tyrone, I work for a really innovative company. Because Carroll Management Group. But here's the why on this. Every company promotes themselves is, for lack of a better word, we're so woke, but are you?
Right.
What are you actually doing? You know what I'm saying? But are you? I mean, because we're a very whole person, and I get that, but what are you giving back? I feel like this is a great, personally, to be able to put this in. We're working on our annual report, to be able to say in our annual report, not only do we make bazillion dollars, we helped we are partnered with, I just think it's good business, and also it would feel good to me personally.
Your employees are watching what you're doing as a company. And if you're making this type of positive impact on this many people's lives, you're going to be excited to be a part of that.
Well, and how different for our on-site teams when they're able to help people that come in that can't, you know what I mean? This is something that's been totally lost. People have forgotten how good it feels to be a positive force in the world, how important that is. Tyrone, I manage a team based in El Salvador, and the best day of my month every month is when I pay them their bonus, which is equivalent to about a third of their pay that we kind of negotiated. And literally, I cry, they cry. It's just the best feeling in the world. I'm sure you feel a lot of that in what you do, but I want to share that with other people, anyway.
Yeah, I took my team to a restaurant here for our holiday party, and I was like, guys, we overturned. I know we were just shy of 3,000 this year. We were like we almost hit three. We overturned 3,000 miles this year, and they were like celebrating. And we did a small video for the team to get them all hyped up. But then I was like, there are 22 to 28, depending on the month, in Oregon, 1,000 denials per month.
And these people need a place to live.
Right. They need a place to live in.
It's fundamental.
When you think about how big the problem is, and even though you overturn 3,000, you're like, Oregon is 22,000 a month. Like it's not even, we didn't even move the needle. You know what I mean? Like at all. And so I'm like, we can get excited, but until we get more people on board, right? Until it becomes more of a movement, not just a startup, right? Until there's people behind it, then we won't hit the momentum, the snowball effect to actually move the needle, like to actually create change. So that's why, Sydney's such a big dreamer. When she has her ideas, she's like, we need everybody involved.
Knock can't raise enough money on our own. I mean,
I'm thinking
I got bills too, but
yeah,
right.
I'm thinking that the private sector investment will lead the public sector. In other words, you'll be able, I'm Catholic, so if the private sector is investing in this program and legitimizing it, then you might be able to go to Catholic charities. Like, I don't know that that's how it works, but it feels like that's how it works. You know what I mean? Like a public company or, private, but you know what I'm saying? When private industry supports something, it validates it to charities, because there's a ton of money out there. And then now we know how to access it because we've had to learn through COVID.
Right.
Too, when I was at my last company, I was working with HR and we're like, what do? We want to do something that's for the greater good. What can we do? We went and helped build Habitat for Humanity houses, but we didn't have the resources to start our own nonprofit, and we didn't really know where to begin. And so this is an opportunity for any property management company out there, any prop tech company out there, to say, you know what? I don't know where to begin. How can I have the greatest, most tangible, most right now impact on my customers or my customers' customers? If you're in prop tech, this is how you make the greatest impact in our industry. You are your contributions directly help individuals get into homes they love right now.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep. More management companies participating, allowing for the co-signers to come in and get more families indoors. Because some markets, like Georgia, we have a good size. Like sometimes, people go to our website and they're like, where do you live? And they click on Georgia, and then it shows them a lot of properties. But then in other markets, it's like because we work a lot of housing agencies, as you would think,
right?
And they will reach out to us and be like, hey, we have a 22-year-old and blah, blah. And even though we tell them, you don't have to tell us the whole story. We don't, but they still do anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And they were like, at the end of all that, here's the link. Have them fill it out, which we could have started with. That's okay, because we, listen, they fill it out. And then they're like, oh, yeah, these are the companies. I'm like, that market only has 3 management companies or 4 management companies. Like, it's not enough. To where they end up still living somewhere that they're not in love with, they're not excited about, they're not, and there's negatives to that. So we really got to get more landlords participating and raise enough capital, and we can really move the needle once we decide it's like a people and it's like an industry that everybody needs access to housing.
Do you have Walton properties here?
I don't know.
You need to go get them. They're the finest people I've ever known in this industry. They started a company. Yeah.
Make an intro. Do an intro.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy to. Yeah. Connect Tyrone and I, or we might be connected. Oh no, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. I know who's naughty and who's nice. Really, really nice.
Don't
Not
say that.
everyone,
Yeah,
but
this
I
is
mean,
live. It's not live, but it's going to be.
we'll edit that out.
No, I will not. This is gold.
I
I
love
think
this.
that
It's so great.
it's more than just raising funds too. Like if you're listening to this right now, whether you are a supplier or a property manager, share this, send this episode to the people at your company who can be decision makers or other companies that you know that maybe you don't want to or you don't have the funds to donate to this new program, but just the awareness factor is going to help so many people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tyrone, good for you.
Thank you.
I have a video that Tyrone's team made that he shared with us that I would really like to play for you all to kind of put some faces and some real stories behind this. But before we play that, Tyrone, do you have any final thoughts or anything to say or add?
No. Just happy new year and excited for 2022 to go after that 10,000 denials.
We're going to as an industry, with the help of OneApp, we will overturn 10,000 denials. I am putting that out into the universe. Yes. That is our New Year's resolution, and it's happening.
I was denied because my credit rating is very low. Unfortunately, I have gone through breast cancer 3 times within a 12-year period, and medical expenses are outrageous.
Mostly because I didn't have renters history, I believe, and my credit wasn't that good.
My credit score, and because of a previous eviction that I had a few years back.
I was denied the first time because they were saying that my income wasn't verifiable. So I had passed the credit check, I had passed the background check.
A long time ago, this is when my very first apartment, back in 2014, I had a job. It was a temporary job, and I just gave my foot into the world. And so the job ended and I couldn't pay rent. And so I ended up breaking the lease, which ended up causing me to have that on my back, my credit report.
I was married for over 15, 16 years. And so we had a home together, but my name was not on the mortgage. And so I don't have any rental history. And my credit score was, I think, maybe 640, 650-ish. And not having rental history puts me at risk.
For one, bad credit. 2, I'm a convicted felon. And 3, I wasn't making enough money to support myself at the time.
And apartment after apartment complex and rental management companies, they didn't really care how long I worked or how long I lived in my home, or, my financial burden due to medical expenses.
My rental history, I just couldn't get it up because of my credit. My credit wasn't good, so they wasn't trying to take that. And I didn't have a co-signer.
I had got the eviction because I had became ill and could no longer work and afford to stay on my own. So I had to move in with my daughter.
And I mean, it was something with the income. And then when I finally gave them everything, they was like, hey, we're good. We don't need anything. And then it came back again that I was denied. So I'm like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense.
I actually just kind of been bouncing from my friend's house or stayed by my mom's for years until I ran into somebody mentioned the OneApp Guarantee.
The impact of you co-signing for me was phenomenal. I was able to obtain a unit that I wanted to live in, a property that I felt represented me.
With my history of, trying to apply for places to stay and being denied, I never actually heard of OneApp until I put in for this apartment, and I was like, ain't no way they're gonna approve me. Then the next day I was approved. I was like, holy I was surprised. I was happy because it was another chapter in my life that I can begin, because I've never lived on my own.
you're really a good person and you're hardworking, and nobody wants to buy into that. But you all helped me get some housing, secure housing in a very nice place. And it was such an easy process, and it was almost unbelievable, but it really worked for me. And I can't thank you all enough. It works. It works.
God forbid something does happen, life happens sometimes, and, we're not always able to maintain them bills, and that kind of puts a security blanket on us. So, I think if I would have got approved and they probably would have offered me that in substance, I still probably would have took you guys. Like, all right, let me get this, because they are going to guarantee that I'm okay while I'm here.
I do want to say just thank you very much for coming up with this idea, because it allowed me to be in a unit that I love.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I was living out here in Virginia in a hotel for like 5 weeks, waiting on the apartment, gave up my apartment, which was already rented now, and I had nowhere to go.
Nobody wants to help, or nobody wants to give you a chance. So OneApp Guarantee definitely gave me a second chance at getting a better house, better conditions, in a better neighborhood, and I'm 5 minutes from my job. So it's just like the most awesomest thing to me, and I want to thank y'all, because this has been a long 4 months for me getting approved, trying to find a place.
If it wasn't for you guys, I'd probably be homeless right